Welcome to Duck Season Somewhere podcast. This episode is brought to you by the following sponsors. For 365 days a year, it's duck season somewhere at Ramsey Russell's GetDucks.com. The world of duck hunting is way bigger than our backyard. The very best duck hunts in Argentina and Mexico are only the beginning. We specialize exclusively in 6 continents worth of proven waterfowl hunting adventures. Whether you're looking for a unicorn species or a fun trigger pulling vacation of epic proportion, we've got the right hunt dialed in. Real duck hunts and authentic experiences for serious duck hunters. As a genuine American duck hunter myself, I know the difference. Founded in 2003, GetDucks.com is not just what we do, it's all we do. I've been there personally many times. Our reputation speaks for itself. Anita and I are personally available to assist before, during, and after your trip because you deserve nothing less. Looking for something closer to home? The next great hunt is closer than you think. Contact proven operators throughout the U.S. and Canada at our U.S. hunt list. Explore worldwide duck hunting at GetDucks.com. All package details, photos, videos, stories, and thousands of client testimonials right there at your fingertips. GetDucks.com. Ball Shot Shell's copper-plated bismuth tin alloy is the good old days again. Steel shots come a long way in the past 30 years, but will never, ever be like good old-fashioned lead. No way. Say goodbye to all the gimmicky, high recoil, compensation, science, and marketing hype, and hello to superior performance. Know your pattern, take ethical shots, make clean kills. That is the boss way. The good old days are now. It really is duck season somewhere for 365 days per year. Duck season somewhere takes me year-round to worldwide destinations where I visit with the most interesting people. I'm your host, Ramsey Russell. Join me here to listen to those conversations. This is Ramsey Russell, GetDucks.com, where it's duck season somewhere, and I just got back. I just got back from God's country. I just got back from Utah. I just got back from the great Basin of Utah, and it was utterly amazing. The last 3 days I was there, I was on the lake, and I was hunting a total different habitat. We were chasing specifically canvasbacks and other divers. Today's guest is Tony Smith, born and raised in that part of the world. If y'all keep up with him in social media, you know that he is a passionate diver hunter. Tony, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty dang good. How about yourself, Ramsey?
I'm doing good, and I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of glad to be home on one hand because y'all got some weather since I left, did you not?
Oh yeah, it went from let's see what it was when you were here, almost 60 for the high and about 41 for the low, and now we're down to about 7 for the low and 26 for the high. We froze up pretty dang quick.
Woo! Well, the whole basin hadn't froze up yet, has it?
Well, the Great Salt Lake's salty enough it doesn't freeze, but all our fresh water, the shallow stuff, when I say shallow, I mean 3 feet or less, got an inch of ice on it. But the cool thing is there's enough ducks and swans in right now that they're going to keep those open holes open up in the refuge and the closed areas, and it's supposed to get back up to almost 60 this weekend with the lows of 33. So it's going to open back up, and we'll continue to have a lot of good shoots from here on out.
Tony, what amazed me about hunting out there with y'all in Utah is some of the most beautiful country I've ever hunted. Every morning that I hunted out there in that part of the world, when the sun rose and I could see those purple mountains and that blue water and all that swamp grass out there, I just realized it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever hunted. But at all times, hunting with you and Kevin, hunting with you and your son, hunting at times out there where y'all were, I could look and know that within 10 or 15 miles, I had hunted previously across the same body of water. And whereas I go out with one guy and we're shooting teal. And then I go over here 15 miles and I'm shooting mallards and gadwalls coming into little ponds. But where we were, there was a lot of divers. I mean, those I never will forget those flocks of cans in the morning that were coming off
big flocks of cans, flocks of bluebills. What was the difference? I mean, I know of all that territory we could have hunted, I hunted parts I didn't see what I saw hunting with you. What was going on? Why, as a diver hunter, what are you looking for? What has got you in that area? What's got those ducks in that area? What's different about it?
Okay, well, let me start off first by telling you that spot we hunted, I've shot bluebills there, but the cans typically don't go through there. That's just not a can spot. But
okay,
everything lined up this year, and the best way I can describe it is, let's say you're goose hunting in fields, right? You have one field to the east that's all corn, cut corn. The middle field's nothing but dirt, and then the field to the west has cut corn. And just so happens you only have permission to hunt the dirt field. What are you doing? You're running traffic, right?
That's right.
Where we were, yeah, that thickest sago known to man, but getting a lot of pressure. But to the south and to the north, you got ponds that are rest areas. So the birds are bouncing from rest area to rest area. I haven't been out there. You can't get close to them, so it's hard to tell if they've ate themselves out. But they bounce out, come and feed on that sago, go over to the other pond, roost for the rest of the day, and come out. So that's why they were there. But finding them is the easy part. And I wish more waterfowlers learn that your best friend is a pair of binoculars. If you have a good pair of glass, and they don't even have to be expensive glass, but if you got a good pair of glass, and you know what birds you're chasing look like in flight, that's your best bet right there. And that's what I do.
Well, it's funny you say that, because one of my something I really remember about sharing a blind with you for 3 days, 3 mornings, was your use of binoculars. I mean, I carry a coffee thermos and a coffee cup, my shotgun shells, and you carry everything, but you also got a pair of binoculars. And I really remember the morning that we shared a blind with Rich Buse and those boys. You were to my left, and I'd look over to you, and when there wasn't the action going on, you were glassing. I'd look to my right, when there wasn't no action going on, he was glassing. Always glassing, always looking for ducks through binoculars. That's not something we really do back home a lot, but I noticed y'all two doing that a whole lot.
Well, if you've noticed where we hunt, I mean, it's big water, but it's shallow, right? I mean, we're hunting anywhere from 6 inches to 2.5 feet. But it's big water, and you can see 4 miles this way, 5 miles that way. So basically, when we think we have the X, we're hunting. But while we're hunting, we're still freaking scouting for the next day if there's a better spot. And,
find the center of the X.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing. As you can tell, sometimes the grass isn't always greener. Because on that last day, we went down to where all the birds were, and they decided to do the opposite. But it's nice.
They were just being ducks that day, though. I mean, we had a great shoot. That's a day we encountered some greater scaup, and did get a canvasback and shot some mallards. But I mean, that was just that day. There really wasn't a lot of ducks in the air. It's like it was quiet, and they weren't trafficking like they had been. But the first couple of days were truly spectacular. I mean, to see that many canvasbacks, to get to go that part of the world and hunt with y'all and see that, and that's a whole different ball game than hunting mallards or hunting teal, just the whole production. Now tell me about this, because you already mentioned sago pondweed. How important is that to your hunting and to hunting up in that part of the world?
It's probably 95% of the hunt that makes it important is the sago. In years that we have droughts and then they fill all these ponds up after the growing season, let's say October 1st, they start filling them up, you'll get your ducks, but we don't have the numbers and they're not in the area. They're wherever the sago is. So like the refuge, they had some work they needed to do to it for the last 2 years. And one of the big giant closed areas, I think I told you, is like 20 square miles. Don't hold me to it, but it's pretty close to that. It'll hold anywhere from 100 to 200,000 ducks on it, and probably 3,000 geese, more depending. But the last 2 years, it's been dry, and that whole area has been void. Even though we had some sago in the area we hunted, the birds aren't resting. They're not coming in there to feed. So last year was really tough. But generally, when we have sago, the birds are in, and it's, sometimes you feel like the Pied Piper because it's so easy.
Yeah, that sago. I also had Rich Hansen on here. I interviewed him previously, and he was really giving me the lowdown from the biological perspective of that pond sago. And he pulled some up and was showing me how, you got like this tuber in the bottom, and you got this I don't know, this algae looking plant coming up, and how some of the dabblers will eat parts of it, how some of the divers will eat some of it, and how the swans will dive all the way under and pull up the tuber and eat it. How the entire waterfowl spectrum of birds out there utilize that pond sago, and how it gets invertebrates. So different times of year when they really need to eat bugs instead of plant, they've got it.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of, the way I understood it was, it is like the most important thing out there, especially if you're a diver hunter. He said you show, and I never forget. We came out that first morning, and we're running in your boat, and you had your headlamp on, your front light on, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like it was like we were just going through solid sago. There was so much of it floating on the water.
Yeah, it was more like green shag carpet.
Yeah, like green shag carpet is exactly what it was like. It was amazing especially having been to just 10 miles away where the water was extremely shallow and there was no sago. It was all bulrush or something, It was incredible. But changing subject, so tell me about one of the most interesting things to me was your decoy spread. It was a massive spread, and I know you said it was just a small spread, but it was a pretty impressive spread of decoys you put out, and I really appreciated the fact that they weren't just store-bought decoys. You had made those. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm a pretty crafty guy. I did wood flooring for 20 years, and I paid kid detail to attention, and after hunting all these plastics all those years, nothing's wrong with them, but I felt like I needed to do something different to make what I was doing just a little step above what I have been doing, right?
Yep.
So I got on social media, saw some guys carving, and I liked that, and tried my hand at it and carved a couple big solid blocks of wood till I had a toothpick, and I wasn't too happy about that. And then I came across a guy who made some decoys making silicone molds and foam. So got with him, and, he was nice enough to send me all the pictures and step-by-step where to buy it, how to do it. So I, carved a few decoys and just started making them. And, at first I really thought, wow, I'm going to save some money on this. But to be honest with you, for what I spent on the 100 can decoys I have, I could have probably bought 20 to 40 dozen plastics. But, after the first mold I made another, and I got a little bit better at it. It's just something. It's just nice to look at something that you made and designed, and when you decoy birds into it, it just kind of blows your mind. Like, wow, I made that. That's pretty cool.
I mean, to me, it elevates. I've carved a few decoys, cork decoys. Nothing as big and nice as what we hunted over with you, but to me, it adds just such a huge personal element to killing birds over something you made with your own hands. And boy, you made a ton of them. I thought how big the necks were and how they stood out there in the water. I really enjoyed hunting over. And how many? I would say we hunted over about 5 dozen decoys when I was there. It seemed like a big spread because those decoys were so oversized.
Yeah.
It really, God, I'd have said it covered an acre of water, but it was about. I mean, how big will it get at times? How big a spread will you put? Because you're tolling birds on a big body of water.
Yeah, so like the first and third day we hunted, I believe I had like probably 4.5 dozen out there, so it was close to 60 birds. But when we got 2 boats together and 7 guys, I think we probably had close to 10 dozen cans, 4 dozen bluebill, and probably 5 dozen puddle ducks, And you seem driving around in the boat, you're driving through that open water, and you're kicking flocks up from anywhere from 500 to 2,000 ducks. So sometimes when you can stick out like a sore thumb, it's a good thing. But
it pulled them in. I noticed a lot of those flocks would, even if they had no intention of coming in, they would swing over. They would veer off their trajectory to swing down and give those decoys a look. In fact, they paid rent if they did that. We had a great shoot that day. That was unbelievable, to be honest with you. Unbelievable. Tell me, go ahead.
Oh, well, like you're talking about my decoys, I make my cans a little bit bigger. And boy, those things stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, the birds see them for miles, and we weren't in the right spot for shooting pintails, but I was 2 days ago. And when those pintails see those can decoys, it's just a straight line right to them. It's pretty neat.
It's all that white. They just can't stand it, can they?
That's right.
How did you, with all the options that you've got out there, and at your disposal, puddle ducks, teal, mallard, pintail, gadwall. How did you end up developing such a diver freak passion for shooting those divers like that?
Well, I'll tell you, it's a long story, but I'll sum it up pretty short. So I got into waterfowling because my brother hunted with my uncle, and I loved it. But unfortunately, my uncle moved away. My brother joined the Army about the year I could start hunting. I had a guy take me under his wing, and he had 2 daughters. They didn't hunt, so he took me all the time, and I hunted with him every weekend religiously. And we shot nothing but puddlers. And one day this duck flew by, and I go, "What the hell was that?" He's like, "Oh, that's a bufflehead. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "Well, I want one." So I hunted that pond with him for, I think it was 3 days straight, and that thing finally came close enough. I shot it. First diver. Thought it was the neatest thing in the world. Couldn't understand why he didn't shoot him. Well, we didn't really talk much about it. Hunted for a few years. He moved away. In the first year, I think I was 18 years old. I was just hunting on my own. I was driving down the road during pheasant season. These pheasants ran across the road. I stopped, let my dog out. Pheasants jumped way ahead of me up along the river, and I walked up to the river, and a flock of goldeneyes come flying by. And I think I shot 1 or 2 out of it and had to get them. And I thought, well, that's neat. And they just kept, and then I saw cans fly up the river and down and some redheads. So I went home and took my old flambeau mallards and painted them to goldeneyes and just started hunting divers. And, for me, I like every duck. I'm like you. I like every duck. But something about targeting poachers or divers, my heart probably palpitates more than it should. And that's just the direction I go because I like that feeling every time I see one setting its wings and coming in.
I ain't lie to you. I do too.
There's a lot of people in the hunting industry, not just the industry, but just waterfowl hunters that have the assumption, divers are dumb, they're stupid, they're easy. Well, yes and no. I think mallards are too, especially if you're hunting them in a dry cornfield here in Utah. But
yeah.
They all can be hard under certain circumstances, and to stay on cans all season long, that's what I like to do. It's not easy. You got to do a lot of work because they're not in the exact same place every single day of the season, and you got to follow them. And then you might have to follow them 5 miles and scout for 3 days till you finally find a couple of flocks of them. You're like, okay, well, now I can go shoot them. You shoot them up. They don't come back. You got to go scout again, and might be 10 miles somewhere else. So that's why I like doing it. It's more of a cat and mouse game for me.
That's a dang good answer because talking about those divers coming in, and that's one thing I loved about hunting with you, Tony. We were brothers from a different mother when it came to a duck coming in. We really enjoyed it. I do remember strapping a couple of shovelers, only the ones that got close enough to kill when I was hunting with pass. One thing I think would be interesting to share with the people that are listening is you mentioned that your brother got you into hunting, and you told me a little bit about that story when I was hunting with you. And
yeah.
There was a certain decoy. I was in the boat, you were out, and kind of pulling the boat around, putting out decoys that morning, and I was pulling those canvasback, your homemade decoys out of the sack, and I handed you one, and his head was pointed 180 degrees to the left, perfectly to the left. And when I handed it to you, you said, "Yep, that's my brother's decoy." And we talked about it a little bit later, but I remember every morning that I would just it'd get daylight and I'd look out the decoys. That decoy, I could always spot him. Yeah, it didn't matter how many decoys we had out, I could always spot that decoy because his head was perfectly to the left, and none other word. And it was always just right there, kind of in front of the boat. Can you talk a little bit about your brother getting into hunting and stuff like that, and how y'all hunted together and saw some of them areas and what led to that particular decoy?
Yeah, once my brother got back from the Army, I was old enough to hunt, but I was still in junior high, so my mom would let him take me out of school or sleep and go hunt with him, and he always made it about me and taught me everything, showed me everything. And he liked shooting mallards and teal. And back then,
Tony, how old was he, and how old were you approximately at about this time we're talking the story? You're about 12 or 13, and
yeah, I mean, it might have been closer to 14. He was 20. He's 6 years older than me.
Okay.
So, he had a good job, worked 4 days on, 4 days off, and he always took me hunting. So, he showed me everywhere he hunted. He had an airboat. We did all sorts of stuff together. And from what I remember, it was the first year they came out with neoprene waders. He bought me a pair, and I thought I was the coolest kid on the street. I didn't have to pull my pants off anymore and wade out in the water, freeze my butt off. But the truth of the story is I about died a couple of times because those stocking foots were so cold I thought my feet were going to fall off. But still, I could, go retrieve birds without getting wet. So he taught me a lot, and, he'd always sit on my right side and birds would swing to the right side. He swung right and I on the left. So, we were pretty good.
He was left-handed and you were right-handed. He was left-handed and you were right-handed.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So put it this way.
Okay.
Yeah. Put it this way. Out of the couple thousand birds we shot together, not once did he ever say I shot that bird or I did that to him, because my birds were always on my side and his birds were always on his side every time. So it's pretty neat,
Awesome.
I don't get to hunt with a lot of left-handers, so it was pretty cool. But so we hunted a lot together, and he came down with esophageal cancer, and it was a stage 4 terminal, nothing they could do. At that time, I don't mind giving a shout out because Avery was pretty big at the time, and I had a friend who worked for him named Josh Noble. He made a phone call to Tony Vandemore, and they actually got us out there on a spring hunt. It was me and my brother's last hunt together. And
wow.
It was pretty neat. He was probably on his 10th chemo, just sicker than a dog. And we got out there. We had he wasn't in good shape, but we got him out there, and the sun came up. And right when the sun came up, we probably had 2,000 snows circling around us. And he was over there. You got to imagine he's like 37. No, I think it's probably 38-year-old guy giggling like he was 3 years old. I mean, that I'll never, ever forget that, and I'll be in debt to those guys for hooking us up. I got some pretty neat pictures of it. But anyway, he ended up, he was, final couple of weeks, he asked me and the family members, he wanted to get cremated, and he said, Tony, I want you to do some special things with me. And we talked about it over the years. And if I ever die, put me in shells and shoot me. Do this, do that. So, I did put him in some shells. In fact, the first time I shot one of his shells that had his ashes in it, I shot a goose in Long Island, New York. It ended up being banded, I think in Nova Scotia or something like that. So to me, that was a sign that, like, hey, little brother, you're doing me right. So as I got going on these decoys, something kept telling me, you need to put a quarter pound of your brother in one of these things. And I kind of I don't know if I want to do that. It's such a huge burden to have that and take care of it. And I thought, well, if you knew my brother, his nickname was Crash, so he wants me to do it. so I put him in there, and every time I can hunt, that decoy goes with me, and he's usually my 20-yard marker straight out front, and he's not hard to miss because he's looking over his left shoulder.
He's right there with you, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Tony, that's as fine a hunting stories I've ever heard. I posted that picture up. I posted a picture of you holding that decoy, and you told that story also in a little video clip in social media, and it blew up. It really resonated with a lot of people because Tony, there were days we went out and hunted. We shot our limited cans. We shot our bluebills. We shot some odd duck, stuff like that, come out with a heavy strap. And that last day, the ducks just, I mean, nobody, we knew practically every boat within earshot, and we talked to them before, and nobody really did anything more than average, and that's just what you get sometimes is chicken salad, sometimes chicken shit. But you know, to me anymore, it's so much more than just the duck swinging on a strap, man. I mean, you know, and I hear this and see this a lot, and I really appreciate you sharing that with people. I think that message, it's more to me anymore about the where and the who of duck hunting. That's because, you know, on the day that you ain't gonna shoot a duck, you that's just what you got, man, and you might as well make the most of it. You know?
Exactly.
Tony, and all your story out there in that part of the world, what would be your thoughts in terms of what you would hope for the future of hunting or the future of hunting in Utah? What would be, is there something important along those lines to you that just a message or a thought that you like the idea of? And you know, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious what your take on hunting out there would be.
Well, you know, you're a different person than you were when you were 18. You're a different person than you're 28. And you're a different person you were when you're 38. You know, in my teens and 20s, I was tight-lipped. I didn't want to tell anybody where I was hunting. I didn't want to help anybody because I was afraid that it was going to take away from my experience out hunting, right? Yep. And then, you know, you start getting in my 30s, I start hunting with people, I'm learning things, and they're asking me things. And you know what? For me, look, number one, I like pulling the trigger on ducks. I'll never deny that. That's why I'm there. I'm not there for the sunrise, sunset, and it's there. I enjoy it and I love it, but I'm there to pull the trigger. That's bottom line. But for me, right now, that being number one, number two is getting taking as many people out that I can take out and get them introduced to the sport. Trying to teach them some etiquette, how to act. You know, we've all acted like assholes from time to time, you know, but now it's just like, you know what, be kind. And if someone wants to go out, take them out, you know. If they burn you once, fine, let them burn you once, but don't let them burn you twice. And you met Carson over. You met Carson over at the house. He's friends with my boy. Well, you know, after you came there, that lit a fire under him. He's like, "Well, are you going to take me out?" I'm like, "Well, I'll take you out Sunday. I guarantee you'll shoot at some birds, but I can't tell you how many you're going to shoot at." And you know, he shot his first cans, his first pintail, his first bufflehead. All the way home, I think he called probably 12 to 15 people that he knows and was just going off how wonderful it was. And he shot cans and pintail and buffleheads, and everyone he called him a liar. No, there's no way you shot two by yourself. And, you know, got pictures to prove it. But to see that fire lit in him and him bugging me every day now, asking where we're going to go again, I take some pride in that because I must have done something right that day that kid wants to start waterfowling, you know.
Oh, I saw the picture of him and your boy smiling, and I could see in his smile he is hooked through the roof of the mouth. He is a duck hunter now. There was no doubt about that. He's a duck hunter, and he's a good kid. They were both such. He and Stone were such good kids, you know. And I could tell how important it was, you know, getting to hunt with Stone. He got to take a day off of school and share a blind with him. You know, how important it was to him to share a blind with you, and how important it was to you to share a blind with him. You know, that's just I don't know a better place to get to know people. You know, Tony, hunting in Utah in general, but the days I spent with you, man, I met a lot of people. We hunted with Kevin, we hunted with Rich View, we hunted with Jimmy, we hunted with Tommy. There was a bunch of folks I met there at the ramp and everywhere else, and everybody was just, everybody was just such good people, you know. And I really just sitting in a duck blind, I got to visit with them. I got to listen to their stories, you know, and I love that part of it.
Well, and I don't know if you noticed this, but when you were there every morning we launched and every evening we came back in, could never be more proud to be a Utah waterfowler than everyone that we ran into that wasn't even with us took the time to talk to us and was just salt of the earth people. And I was so proud that, people were just that awesome around here. And I hope it continues that way, and I hope it spreads, because
I hope it does too, because you hear all these stories about fist fights at a boat ramp and all that bull, and tires cut in Arkansas. Man, I went to Utah, and I would say that it's the friendliest duck hunters I've ever met. I mean, and it's public land. Rich told me what % of land out there was public, and it was astounding how much public land there is out there. But everybody got along. I mean, and it was that way every boat ramp I went to. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Where'd you hunt? What'd you kill? I mean, to me, it was like stepping a set of Mayberry or something. It really was, because everybody was just friendly and cheerful and conversative about what they'd hunted and all that good stuff. I'm going to tell you what, like I say, Tony, I told you when I left, I said, next time you see me, I'll probably be driving a U-Haul saying, howdy, neighbor. I loved it out there, brother.
And I'm okay with that. There'll just be a few birds less for me to shoot, but I'm okay with it.
But we'll have a good time. Tony, I appreciate your time tonight. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing diver hunting in Utah with us. Guys, check it out at Ramsey Russell, Get Duck, at Tony Smith on Instagram to keep up with him on Diver Duck Hunting. And thank y'all for listening.
Duck Season Somewhere is produced by Ben Page. Original soundtrack by our friend Cody Huggins.